video, don't forget to smash the like button and share this video with as many people as you can. And if you have not subscribed to my channel yet, kindly do it so that you don't miss any of my videos. So without any delay, let's get started. And today we are gonna do HTML drag and drop. So we are gonna learn about drag and drop. Without any delay, let's get started. Dab. So I'm just going to Chrome, and here we have the chapter HTML drag and drop. It is saying it is an API, but in reality it's not an API. It's just normal drag and drop. Okay, so in HTML any element can be dragged and dropped. So in HTML any element you can drag or drop. For example, here's an example. You could drag the W3 schools image into the rectangle over here. You could drag it back over here, back and forth. You could drag it back and forth. Okay, so we would learn how to do this today. Drag the W3 schools image into the rectangle. Okay, so you could drag the W3 schools image in both of these rectangles. Okay, so drag and drop. Drag and drop is a very common feature. So it is a very common feature, almost like there are games in which drag and drop is used, and lots of games use drag and drop, and it is a very old component and it is a very common feature. It is when you grab an object, so you just grab an object and drag it to a different location and dragging it to a different location. Okay, so the browser support. The numbers in the table specify the first browser versions that fully support drag and drop. So drag and drop API, Google Chrome supported it in 4.0, Edge supported it in 9.0, Firefox supported it in 3.5, Safari supported it in 6.0, and Opera supported it in 12.0. Okay, so the HTML drag and drop examples. The example below is a simple drag and drop example. So here we have a simple drag and drop example. So in this example, we are just able to drag this image over here, and we are not able to bring it back. Okay, so let's see what we have. So we would start with the HTML over here, not with the script, with these tags and all. So we are okay, I'll just okay. So yeah. Okay, let's leave it. Yeah, so first we are giving a p tag, drag the W3 schools image into the rectangle. Then we have a div over here, its ID is div1, and whenever we drop in it, so basically the div is this is the div1 div, and whenever we drop on it, we would call the drop and we would pass it the event. Okay, so we would call the drop function and we would pass it the event. Okay, whenever we drag something over it, it would allow drop event. So whenever we drag over it, we are gonna allow drop. Okay, and then pass it the event. And after a BR, so after the new line, we are creating an image. Its ID is drag1. So this image, it is talking about this image. Its ID is drag1. Its source is image logo.gif. So there must be a image logo.gif, and its source is that. Its draggable is true, so we can drag this. It's true. That means that we are able to drag this image. On drag start, so when we would start the drag, it would call the drag function. Okay, its width is 336 pixels, so its width is 336 pixels and height is 69 pixels. Okay, so now let's see the styling in div. The div1 styling is that width is 350 pixels, so this width is 350 pixels, height is 70 pixels, so height is 70 pixels, padding is 10 pixels, so the padding is 10 pixels, and border is 1 pixel solid, hashtag AAA. So this is some format of gray. border has come. Now let's see the script. In this we are having a allow drop function, and in this we are asking for an event. So the allow drop function we called on drag over. So whenever we drag something over it, we call allow drop and we pass it the event. Okay, so the event is a drag drop event. So if I allow the event over here, so this I'm just alerting the event over here. So you would see that when I drag this over it, it says object drag event. Okay, so okay, literally I'm not able to execute. Just close this and then just open this once again. So if I alert now on drag, so the drag function is we are calling whenever we start the drag of the image. So if I alert this on drag, alert the event on drag, so you see if I drag this, what did it show? It shows a drag event. So this is also a drag event. Now if I alert this in the drop, so let's see what event it is. So when I drop this, I couldn't see it. So when I drop this, it shows a drag event. I just got a slight glimpse of it. Drop, it is a drag event. So these all events are drag events. Okay. So okay, we have seen that these events that we are passing, these are drag events. So now let's see allow drop function. Allow drop we are calling whenever we drag over this div, this image. Whenever we drag this image over that div, we are calling allow drop. So what is an allow drop? In allow drop we are getting the event, and what we are doing event.prevent default. So what this is doing, by default the elements are not allowing anything to be dropped in them, but event.prevent default, what we are doing, we are preventing the default. So like the elements don't allow it, and using prevent default we are preventing it. So like we are changing the default behavior of it, so we are allowing it. Okay, basically we are allowing to drop. So now we have the drag function. We are calling the drag function whenever we start the drag. So in this we are doing event.data transfer set data. So we are doing event.data transfer set data text, and then this is the type of the data, and then event.target.id. Okay, so we would get to know about this when this would explain about it. So like basically, okay, so now when we have drop function over here, in this we are getting the event, we are preventing default. So by default it does not allow to drop also, but we prevent default over here only, so we don't need this right now. I don't know why this added over here, but in this we are doing variable data, and it is accessing the text data over here. Okay, and then it is doing event.target.append child. So it is appending the child, and it is appending the document get element by id data. So we would just see what this all means, and then what I would do is I would do the same thing but without the script. So I would shorten the code. In the end I would remove the script and do the same thing with only HTML. Okay, so let's understand this example. So it might seem complicated. So this might seem complicated. Yeah, this is quite complicated, right? Like event.data transfer set data text event.target.id and what all gibberish. But let's go through all the different parts of drag and drop events. So let's go through all the different parts of drag and drop events. So first of all, we need to make an event element draggable. So we need to make an element draggable. First of all, to make an element draggable, set the draggable attribute to true. So we are setting the image draggable attribute to true. That means that that element is now draggable. What to drag? On drag start and set data. So then specify what should happen when the element is dragged. So whenever you start the drag, then what should happen? In the example above, the onDragStart attribute calls a function drag that specifies what data to be dragged. So this drag function is specifying over here what data should be dragged. Okay. So the data transfer dot set data method sets the data type and the value of the drag data. So it is like a key value pair. So this data transfer dot set data is setting the type of whatever data it is, and then it is setting so like it is setting the data type and the value of the drag data. So whatever we drag, the event has a target. So the target gives us which element we are dragging and then its ID. So whichever element we are dragging, we are accessing its ID and then setting it as a value. Okay, over here in this function. In this case, the data type is text. So the data type over here is text, and the value of the ID of the draggable element is drag1. So and the value is the ID. So it is the ID of the draggable element drag1. Okay. So where to drop on drag over? So the on drag over event specifies where the drag data can be dropped. Okay, by default data or elements cannot be dropped in other elements. So by default they can't be dropped in other elements. To allow a drop, we must prevent the default handling of the element. So this is a default handling that it does not allow a drop, but we need to prevent the default handling. This is done by calling the event.preventDefault method for the onDragOver event. So you could just call the event.preventDefault and it would just prevent the default behavior. And then finally do the drop. We allowed the drop. We did on drag start. So whenever the drag is start, then we handled it. But now finally do the drop on drop. When the drag data is dropped, a drop event occurs. So this drop function is called then. In the example above, the onDrop attribute calls a function drop event. So it is calling a function drop over here and it is passing the event. It is preventing the default, so we don't need this because we already did this in allow drop. Then we are creating a variable data. In this we are getting whatever data we set over here. Whatever data we set over here using the set data function, and we are accessing its value using its type. So we are just getting the data text. We specified it as a type. Okay, and now we are getting the data of text, so it would bring this value event.target.id. So whatever the element we drag, its ID has come in this data variable. So now we have event.target.appendChild. So the event is the drop event. So it's target.appendChild. Target is bringing what in which element we are dropping our image. Okay, and in that we are appending this. We are calling the append child. So we are appending document.getElementById by ID data. So in data we had the ID of what we are dragging, that is drag1 image. Okay, and then we are over here, we are doing document.getElementById by ID, and basically the data is the ID because we got the data using the getData function, and then we got the IDs and we are giving basically the ID. So, and we are appending it into the drop wherever we drop that image. So the code is now explained. Call the prevent default to prevent the browser default handling of the data. Default is open as link on drop. So by default it is like when we drag an image and bring it over here, it opens it in a new link. Okay, get the drag data with the data to transfer get data method. So get the drag data that we drag using the get data method. This method will return any data that was set the same type in the set data method. So this will return any data that we set to the same type in the set data method. Okay. The drag data is the ID of the drag element, drag 1. So the drag data is the ID of the dragged element, that is drag 1. Okay, and then we are appending the dragged element into the dropped element. Okay, and over here we have another example. So this one that it showed on the top. So we have another example how to drag and drop an image back and forth between two div elements. But first, as I said, when we have now understood this very thoroughly. If you don't understand it, just rewind the video and just see this part once again. Okay, so now I would shorten this code. So basically we know that this element will always be dragged and it would be dropped always over here, right? So this would always be dragged and it would be dropped always over here in here. Okay, so what we can do is in over here we have divided div1 and whenever we drop we call the drop. Instead of this, what we could do is we could just do this dot append child. So it is appending in this whatever this div is. So it is appending in this, and what is it appending? It is appending this image, right? Whenever we drop, it is appending this image. So what we have to do is now we just have to I'm just copying this. So we are bringing the document, we are doing document.getElement by ID. So it is bringing we are doing document.getElement by ID, and we will give over here drag 1. So what this is doing is that it is appending in this div only document.getElement by ID drag 1. So this drag 1 element over here, the image, that is. Okay. So whenever we do drag over, we allow the drop and pass it event. Instead of making this a separate function, instead of this we could just directly do event.prevent default. Not EV, because it would not understand EV, but we are passing it the event, so we could just do event.prevent default. Like we passed allow drop an event and then we set it EV. So and then we did EV.prevent default. Instead over here now we could directly, instead of passing it to allow drop, we can directly do event and then we are preventing the default. So this is as simple as that. And now for the image over here, we don't need the drag start, because in the drag function it is setting the data and we don't need to set the data because we are not using it anywhere. So we just don't need this on drag start. Okay, so and yeah, so but we need to do draggable equals to 2 so that this could be dragged. Okay, and now what we could do is we could remove whole this script, and we could remove the script tag also. So we don't have any script. If I run this and then try to drop it over here, it is working perfectly fine. So this is so cool. We shorten the code so much. Over here we just have a div, and whenever we drop an element in this, we are just appending this image over in this, and whenever we drag over this, we are doing event.prevent default. So it is preventing the default behavior of the browsers, that is to open in a new window anything, okay, any image you drag. And then in image we don't need on drag start, because on drag start we call drag, and drag called it set some data and we are not using that data anymore, so we don't need that. Okay, but we need to do draggable equals to true so that we can say that this image over here is draggable. Okay, So this is as simple as that. Look, the code is so shortened. We have no script. Cool, guys. I'll just have a sip of water. Okay. And now let's see this example. This last example's code. So what we have these three standard functions that were in this example also before. These were in this example also. Okay, but let's see the HTML. The HTML is quite different. In this, what we are doing, we are creating two divs. One is div 1, and whenever something is dropped in it, we are calling drop. Okay, standard. On drag over, whenever something is dragged over it, we are allowing the drop. In this div, we have an image over here, so by default you see this image is in this div over here. So because of this, we added an image in this div. It sources image underscore w3s logo.gif, and its draggable is equal to true. Whenever the drag start, we are calling drag event, and its ID is drag1. Its width is 88 pixels and its height is 31 pixels. Then in div 2, whenever we drop, we call a drop event. We call the drop function and pass it the event, and whenever we drag over it, we allow the drop. Okay, so and these functions are ditto same. They are completely same. So let's try to convert this also into like without this. Let's try to do this without all the script. So what we have to do right now, whenever we drop, we just have to do this dot append child like before. Just append over here this image. So it's we are doing document dot get element by id and then the image id, element by id, and then I would add the image id over here, that is drag1. So I'm just adding drag1 over here. Okay, and whenever I drag over, I would just do event.prevent default as before, like before. Event.prevent default. So okay, prevent default. Okay, the spelling is correct. Now in this image, draggable is equal to true, but we don't need to do the drag start because like we are not using the data anymore of it. And then over here in on drop, we would just do this dot append child. We are just gonna do append child, and we are gonna do document dot get element by id, get element by id. This drag1, because drag1 is our image, and instead of allow drop, we are just gonna do event dot prevent default. So this is just the same thing. I'm just doing the ditto same thing that we did over here, right? We did event dot prevent default. We did this dot append child, document get element by id, drag1. We had an image, but we now in this example we have to do this for div 2 also, so that this can move back and forth. And now I have done this in complete HTML, so we don't need the script. Okay, so now if I try this, it is still being dragged and dropped. Okay, so thank you guys. This was the drag and drop, HTML drag and drop. If you like the video, don't forget to smash the like button and share this video with as many people as you can. And if you have not subscribed to my channel yet, kindly do it so that you don't miss any of my videos. Thank you guys. Bye. Stay safe, stay healthy, and keep watching my videos. Dab!